Fucking hate the microphone on this thing because it never wants to work, and it always does this weird thing where it like I can hear myself out of one side of my headphones but not the other, or like I can mostly hear myself out of one side but then the other is like really muffled. It tends to depend on how I position the actual camera on this tripod. Hopefully, I have it set up in a way where I will not have any problems. But needless to say, I've been doing some thinking. I've also been doing some enjoying of life. That is, um, I was listening to the Fried by Fluoride self titled album from 2022, a band which is, for all intents and purposes, fairly mediocre but also quite fun, that is very emblematic of the broader incel punk trend that was quite well known online a couple years ago. In fact, I would say by 2022, when this album came out, that trend was basically over. Like, of course, there were some people who were still making music in that style, but it had become pretty, like, I don't know, for lack of a better word, trite or kind of just, overdone. It was one of those things that you heard a lot of by that point, or it was a style that had been used and reused that was kind of iterative by its very nature. Like Negative XP wasn't exactly doing anything groundbreaking when he decided to take a couple power chords and make some highly distorted music that was fairly short and simple to the point. It's kind of your typical punk fare, but with sort of an added like internet edge, like more internet cultural references, more references to being an alienated weird guy, as well as some kind of distinctively distorted sounds, like this type of distortion that both on the vocals and the instruments, that is very emblematic of this specific subgenre and brief cultural moment online. But I think by 2022, the style had already been quite overdone, and people, at least the people that I knew, were looking for something else. I mean, really, a lot of the people that I knew had been looking for something else since like 2020. Like it had came and went by that point. But everybody else who got into it around then, I think they were pretty much thoroughly done by 2022. So it was a weird album to come out at a weird time. But, listening to it, it gives me this interesting feeling, this comfy feeling. I actually listened to it so loud that my ears are hurting, which was probably not recommended, but I enjoyed myself. And it ends very well. It has a satisfying conclusion. Um, and it's, for all intents and purposes, a bad album, but it is good in the sense that, it's comfy and enjoyable. Um, and I was listening to this and I couldn't help but get this thing that I often get when I listen to music, where, like a flood of abstract images just course through my head. Like I kept imagining all of these set pieces or weird things that I could do with cameras or editing or stories, and I kept having these images flow through my head. And that's when I know I'm really into a song or an album, is when I just keep having these like iconic moments that I'm inventing in my mind. When I get this urge to create something. And I get that with a lot of music, but it's a distinctly nostalgic feeling for me because it's one that I used to often get with music when most of the music that I listened to was new, when most of it was stuff I was hearing for the first time, or stuff maybe I had heard before, but I kept listening to it in, let's just say, new ways. And the inspiration machine would get moving, and the imagination would commence. And sometimes I miss those like novel states of mind, those strange moments where you feel like you have a renewed perspective on something that you've seen or heard so many times. And today I had that feeling. I came up with a character. I'm not going to spoil what the character is or what its purpose is, but I came up with a character nonetheless. I came up with situations that said character would be relevant in that may very well be relevant to you quite soon, depending on how this project goes. Um, but that sort of got me thinking about the broader prospect of creativity for me and on this channel. Um, I think something about my style or just what I'm doing on here um, is working in one sense and is not working in another. It really depends on what you want or what you're trying to do. My intention with these videos has never been to get a lot of views or attention. The way that I've done these is is very specific. If I have a thought, I post it. If I have an idea, I turn it into something. I've spent a lot of time telling people to unsubscribe from my channel, or I have made my videos intentionally very uninviting by putting these schizo thumbnails on there, or uh, putting these really schizo titles on the video, like stuff that's just not relevant to the video at all. And these are, I call it counter ops that I run on the algorithm to make my videos less attractive to the people in the world, so that the people who are really in the know, you know, they have a place on here, they check it out, but the people who don't know just don't know. And that's kind of been like my approach. It's the same reason, one of the reasons at least, why I've used largely lo-fi footage throughout the history of my channel as well. It's a way to, uh, you know, to put off a certain group of people, to also give the videos like a fever dream like quality in many cases. Um, but at the same time, I've also seen more and more of these so-called slice of life vlogs penetrating the mainstream of the internet, primarily ones focusing on women, which isn't exactly a surprise, but I've even seen ones with men in them do quite well on YouTube. These Denpa style raw 2008 core guy talking into their webcam type videos. I have seen these pop up all over the place. Same thing with like the classic kind of 2015, I'm just going to hold my phone up and record in the car type video that's exploded on YouTube. And those were videos that I used to watch back in the day for the rawness, but they would rarely get very many views. Usually they would stay in at most, the couple thousand view range. Nowadays, those videos get hundreds of thousands of views. A lot of the time, it's like a wise young, like, I don't know, like sometimes it's a black guy. Actually, a lot of the time it's a black guy, or sometimes it's like something weird, like a French Quebec person or something. Like these people you wouldn't expect, just getting up in front of the camera and then telling the truth and complaining about the state of the economy and inflation and the fact that you have to work like 4 jobs and stuff like that. Um, a lot of big truth bombs, go get that bag, secure the money type videos. Um, I guess what I'm trying to say is videos with a lot of cynicism about the way things are right now or will be in the future. Reasonable cynicism, but, um, you know, very similar themes across these different channels. And it doesn't seem like they're communicating with each other. It doesn't even seem like they've seen each other's videos. They just happen to appear. Um, and I wouldn't call that trend Denpa per se, but it is hitting on some similar notes in the sense that those guys are talking about alienation. They're talking about the state of the economy and society, and they're doing so with minimal effort in terms of presentation. But, you know, a lot of passion, which is what ends up coming through in the video. Um, I feel like I feel like there, how do I put this? Like there was a time and place for a lot of the videos that me and No were making. I still watch videos in this style. I still really like videos in this style. But part of me, after doing this for so long and seeing sort of the diminished reaction and the diminished excitement for same old, part of me wonders if perhaps my ideas or my potential talents could be suited for something different. I wonder if perhaps a different style of video may be in order for this moment, this time, or at the very least to do things that are different than what I am comfortable doing. Like there's a set style for an Osaka video. There has been for a long time now. It's basically just this. And that style can be very fun to engage with. But when you've done it so many times, and I think this is part of what No Thank You has been exploring or talking about as well with respect to this style, you start to want to do something different. I like watching this kind of stuff, but am I going to like making this kind of stuff forever unless I have like a really compelling topic or story that I want to tell? That's the question. And I don't know the answer. What I do know is that right now, my heart hungers for more. I want to do more. And as to what that looks like, that is to be announced. You will see in the coming days and weeks and months. But I know that I want to do more than what I'm currently doing. And it's interesting. I feel like the more you get set in your ways, the more you have kind of a defined style that people expect from you, the less soul that's going to come through in the things that you do. And I feel like a lot of what I've liked about making videos over the years is the fact that they come off as authentic, that they're an authentic reflection of what I really feel or whatever I'm really interested in that moment. And in keeping with that tradition, I have to say that I am not interested in doing this kind of video right now. I'm just not. I feel that this channel could be so much more, that there could be so much more that I am doing, not to, gain more attention from more people or to grow my audience, but to grow something deeper inside of myself, to push boundaries inside of my own mind, to forge new paradigms that I haven't yet imagined or seen. I think there's this desire inside of me to be doing more with this format. And when I look at, the lower view counts, the kind of decreased engagement. Um, I get the sense that a lot of people who typically watch my stuff feel the same way. That a lot of them are also kind of looking for something more interesting from me, or hoping that I start to reinvent things a bit, or retool my style, if not start doing something new entirely. And then, of course, there's the people that are very comfortable with the kind of videos that I make, that maybe it's part of their routine watching my stuff, or they value uh, how do I put this, the reliability of my content. The fact that they generally know what they're getting, stylistically speaking, from my videos. They don't always know what the topic is, because that's not clear from the way that they're titled and what's in the thumbnail most of the time. But they know what they're getting, more or less. And I know what I'm getting, more or less, when I turn on the camera. I know what's gonna happen. Maybe that's a bad thing. Or if not bad, then at least neutral. Neutral overall, but it can be bad in certain situations. Maybe this is one of those situations. Maybe right now, what I really should be focusing on is how I can take my content to the next level and do things that I have never done before. Or at the very least, go to places that I've never gone before, to get new inspiration from the environment, and say and write new things. I don't know, I just feel like something needs to be renovated around here. Something needs to be rejuvenated around here. And that's not happening. For as long as I keep doing the same thing, something needs to change. And I have a couple ideas as to what, but I'm not going to spoil them for the people that are waiting on that. I want to keep you in suspense. I want to keep you ready. But something needs to change. Things cannot continue going the way that they have been on this channel. Denpa as a format must be reborn. After No Thank You made Denpa 3, I got really excited about the format of Denpa videos again, and I brought back the schizo titles, I brought back the schizo thumbnails, which I've had a lot of fun making. But I also, at least at first, I brought back a lot of the stylistic elements that were very characteristic of this type of video for the longest time. Weird colors on the videos, non-linear vignettes, fucking, really passionate explanations of esoteric topics, strange editing that makes it, to call back to that term once again, that makes it look like a fever dream. This sort of stuff, I was really excited about it after he made that video. And then, time sort of inches forward, and you get less excited about this thing that you've done a lot of different times already. The nostalgia sort of wears off, and then you start to think, okay, I need to do something new. I need to do something different. And as to what that will be, you will find out. But, if I was already doing what I wanted to do, I wouldn't take the drop in view counts or in overall attention that my channel is getting as a bad sign. If I was doing what I wanted to do, I would just think, oh, well, I guess some people aren't, noticing this or finding it. Oh, well. And I know that because that's what I used to think about a lot of videos that I was making that I felt really good about. But what I'm noticing is my audience, many of the people in it, by the way, are quite similar to me. My audience is paying less attention to the things that I do. I am also paying less attention to the things that I do. in that I feel a lot less interested in this format, in this way of making a video. Um, and so, as I found myself going harder in the paint in this direction, in in terms of like this Denpa format, I've also seen a lot of the faithful in my audience pay less attention. So here I find myself in kind of an odd situation where this is one of the few times in my life where the overall attention that my channel is getting seems to actually correlate to or correspond with the way that I am feeling about my own videos right now. And something's got to change. The status quo cannot remain as is. I need a big shakeup right now. And again, I have a few ideas as to how I'm going to do that. But the whole, in my room talking about stuff, hikikomori, neat, blah, blah type thing, I don't know. Like, I think I could make some interesting, neat videos still in kind of a different style. Maybe something more along the lines of the stuff Idle Neat is doing. Great channel, by the way. Subscribe down below. Actually, yeah, that reminds me. You want to talk about channels with a lot of passion and that are willing to do different things and have lots of different types of series and different ways of talking about stuff and, creativity. Idle Neat is a great channel. It's a great channel that you should go watch. Very comfy. Similar to the stuff that I do, but different. He's got his own thing going on. Highly recommend Idle Neat. But as far as hikikomori or neat content is concerned, I could easily see myself, doing a similar series to his, which is the Slice of a Neat's Life series. In those videos, he just takes a compilation of clips that are very, mundane, very like slice of life, iyashike type stuff. He takes these clips, and a lot of them aren't all that long. They're just like iconic looking clips that show you what his day is like, usually filmed from some pretty good angles. He's got good work with his camera. And then he just mashes it all together into one video and puts it out there. I could see myself doing that. I could see myself doing like specific videos where I give tips on how to be a neat or a hiki, like the kind of stuff that I did in the old days, the really old days, when I was making videos called stuff like why you don't need to have sex and stuff like that. I was true. I was true. I was right. History has vindicated me on that question. But it's still kind of a strange and cringy thing to put out there. Me and No Thank You have laughed about that video many times. But needless to say, as far as that set of subjects is concerned, I could see myself making like slice of life videos. I could see myself making specific advice videos, like targeting a specific issue, or like something comfy like, oh hey, let me show all of my favorite ramen and talk about it. I saw a post on Denpa-chan the other day which led to some interesting discussion of what everybody's favorite ramen is. That was the kind of thing that I used to see on the 8chan board Hiki. On Hiki, there was this huge thread that was one of the comfiest threads on the whole board, where everybody was talking about, their favorite instant ramen. And that was how I found a lot of my favorites. There's a YouTuber that I believe doesn't make videos anymore, called Comfy Neat, who used to make a lot of videos about that exact subject. He would talk about his favorite ramen and snack food as a neat and stuff, and it always had this really comfy vibe. It had this, this interesting sort of feeling. that, you know, you could just relax to. And so I could see myself, you know, talking about more specific things like that, not totally abandoning those kinds of subjects, but just doing so in a more clear and but just focusing on them in a more clear and like pointed way, like a more focused way. Um, and then, you know, my regular content where I just talk about uh, whatever, I want to give more structure to it. You know, I want to experiment more. I want to do more weird and different things that I've never done before. But I also want to give it more structure. And there's multiple ways that I can go about this. But again, you know, I don't want to reveal everything here in this video. I would rather, you know, I would rather give these ideas more time in the oven, you know, and then just show you. Instead of talking about what I'm going to do, I'd rather just show you what I can do. Um, so look forward to that, and I'll see you in the next one, whenever that happens to be. Probably not all that soon.